Real people, real breakthroughs. This is the Psychology of Eating podcast, where psychology and nutrition meet to uncover the true causes of our unwanted eating concerns. Your relationship with food will never be the same. Now, here's your host, eating psychology expert, and founder of the Institute for the Psychology of Eating, Marc David.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for being here. So I'm Marc David, founder of the Institute for the Psychology of Eating. And I have the great pleasure of being with Stephanie today. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Marc.
Yeah, I feel really lucky that we get to do this and we get to spend some concentrated and focused time together. So let me just catch viewers and listeners up on what we're going to be doing so they have a good sense. So this is going to be a real live session. I've never met Stephanie before, but what a lovely lady, and I'm so glad to be doing this. And
Thank you.
we're going to find out what her challenge or concern is. We're going to spend about a half hour. I'm going to bounce back and forth with Stephanie. I'm going to ask questions. And then after about 30 minutes, we are going to launch into me giving her feedback. And suggestions and ideas for how to really move forward. So we're gonna turbocharge this. We're gonna try to consolidate, I don't know, maybe about 25 professional sessions into about, one session, and hopefully come out with something positive. And then you and I can follow up, on this same show 3 months later, just to see how things are and see how you're doing.
Excellent. Sounds great.
Yeah. Sounds great to me too. And, for those of you listening, if you're a professional, check out some of the questions. After we finish, I'm going to tell you why I asked certain things, different observations that I've had. For those of you listening in who just are looking to transform your own relationship with food, you'll likely, perhaps we see ourselves in everyone. So you might see some of your similar concerns, challenges, as well as some of the solutions and ahas and inspirations in this conversation with Stephanie. So Stephanie, why don't you share with me what's the concern that if you could wave your magic wand, you'd kind of make it all better? What would that look like?
I think, and I suppose this is how I responded in the initial email around this opportunity, my own perception of my body image. And I suppose in and around that, I guess there is things around relationship with food and those sorts of things. But I'd say I've sort of almost held myself as a prisoner for so long around how I perceive myself, specifically around my body image. And it's kind of irrelevant what anyone says around me about how they perceive me, as much as it's lovely to hear when people say, oh, but you look great, or those sorts of things. I like hearing those things, but they don't last for very long because it's not my inner belief. So, and I suppose over the years, I've tried to soul search as to why is that, or to try and capture myself of when I'm having more of those feelings around not feeling good about myself, what's happened in and around that. But I still find I fall into that all the time, and I think it's debilitating. I think the energy I put into that could so be better used somewhere else. I feel like, what are the cues I'm not even aware of that my children might see and potentially adopt? I'd hate for either of my children to ever have to go through the mental anguish I find I go through sometimes with how I perceive myself physically. Or maybe it's not just, yeah.
How old are your kids?
I have a 2.5-year-old daughter and a 5.5-year-old son.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah,
Are
they're
you
awesome.
are you a full-time mom?
I'm a full-time working mum.
And what's your work?
I work in HR at a financial services company, so I'm an HR advisor within the company in human resources.
And you're literally working full-time at that job and being a mom?
Yes.
Okay, that's many full-time jobs is what it sounds like.
Yes, yeah.
So how do you talk to yourself about your body? What's the prison? What does it sound like? What's going on in there?
Depends what day of the week it is. I actually consider myself extremely healthy and I'm very focused on my nutrition and have more so come that way in the last sort of 12 to 24 months. So there's this part of me that knows I'm sort of doing all the right things, I suppose, to make myself feel good and be healthy. There's days I just don't feel good, and I suppose I've already made the decision of what I think I'm going to see in the mirror before I even get there. So, and I'm acutely aware of that in a way. So I don't even know why I bother going to the mirror. It's like validating what I already think. So yeah, I just and I can yeah.
Can you be specific? So, what might be some of the specific things you tell yourself? Do you focus on specific body parts? Do you have specific languaging that you use?
Yes, I look big. I look fat. My hips are too big. My clothes are tighter. I'm sure my stomach looked flatter the other day. Um, I'm right. I don't look as good as I thought I did. Or how can someone say that I looked good? I'm looking in the mirror now and I don't look good. That's a sort of language.
And how long can you remember having that kind of internal conversation with yourself? Like, when did it first start?
Yeah, I would say I was mindful or really self-conscious about my whole image from, I reckon, from about 8, 9.
Wow.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
start young sometimes, don't we?
Yes. Yeah.
And has there been a point in your life where you felt you did have the body that you wanted?
Well, that's a really great question. So, as I said, after the birth of Shelley, my second child, I had a lot of health issues. And so one of them being diagnosed with hypothyroidism, and that really helped me look at my food choices and things like that. So anyway, I changed my nutrition. I started seeing results, was training with my trainer, started seeing physical results to the point where I decided to enter into a fitness modeling competition. So I'm not sure, they're similar in the States, but it's like a physique modeling competition. So I literally did 2 of those just in September and October of 2014. So, and I remember looking in the mirror, the leanest I've ever been. That was supposed to be the holy grail for me. And just before stepping on stage, just going, yeah, and things that I'm not happy with, which I found interesting. I enjoyed doing that only because it was about setting a goal and it's striving to achieve that goal. So I took the feel good factor away from that. But in terms of my physical being, there I was at what I thought was always going to be the pinnacle of how I thought I wanted to look, and I was still able to have that negativity and the voices in my head still saying, "Yeah, nah, still this, you're still that, your hips are still wide here, yeah, this is that here."
So then, technically speaking, let me just understand this clearly. So when you entered these kind of fitness model competitions, technically on paper, you had the body that you thought you wanted. Is that true?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting, really interesting about a competition like that is you actually front up and everyone's, in just next, not very much. And there's a bazillion different shapes and sizes all around you. So you, to an extent, you're given what you're given and you can make the best with what you've got. But yeah, you are what you are type of thing as well. So experience. And now off the back of that, you're trying to sort of find that balance because there is no balance and you're not healthy. We know we're not healthy the day we get up on stage. And then you come away from that and try and find a middle ground. And that's challenging in itself as well, to feel good about yourself looking back at how you were. Yeah.
What motivated you to enter the competition?
When I started seeing results from my nutrition changing and my body responding to, I've exercised for years and I've never had physical results the way I did. I remember thinking, I suppose because I've always also admired women that just look strong physically. Or I think I always had a curiosity about competing or getting to that level of physique. So when I started noticing the changes in my body, I just thought, oh, maybe that's something I could do. For the first time ever, it was actually a potential option for me. And I would never, if I'm going to commit to do something, I'm going to do it. So I felt like it was in my reach to be able to do, whereas any time before that in my life, I wouldn't even contemplated doing that.
So,
Yeah.
how do you, in your mind, reconcile, wow, I put in all this energy and effort, I got the body that I wanted, and I look in the mirror and it still wasn't good enough? Like, what do you say to yourself about that experience?
I think that it's not really about, I think that it's not really about my body, is what I think. Like I've now been at all these different extremes. I've been to the world. I'm sitting in a position where people might go, God, people would love to look like you. So I think it's not really about my body. I think I use my body as it's the tangible object maybe to attack myself when other things aren't maybe in alignment or something's not congruent. I haven't quite figured that part out.
Do you know women or have you met women who you think to yourself, wow, she's got the body I want, but
Yep.
you happen to know them and you know that they're not happy with what they got?
Ah, the ones I know. Oh yeah, yeah. There's one in particular I can think of, but otherwise, the other ones that I know, they don't seem to not be happy. But I probably haven't spoken to them on that level.
But you know at least one.
I do know at least one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just collecting data because I find this fascinating. I find it fascinating how we set this goal in terms of our looks. You actually got there. So you had what it takes to actually get to where you wanted to be, and it wasn't okay. That for me, I just find that fascinating. That for me, it's kind of a gold mine of learning and wisdom. But I want to ask a few more questions first.
Sure.
So you have kids. I'm assuming you're married.
Yes, I am married.
How does your
Yes.
husband feel about your body?
Oh, look, we've been together 13 years. So I was the biggest size when we first met and first fell in love. So he sort of loves me and tells me I look fantastic no matter what. He's probably my biggest advocate and just sort of says, I don't know what you don't know what you're looking at. You look great. You look better than what everyone else were around. So, yeah, I've never felt like I'm letting him down, or yeah, I know that he thinks I'm great, which is lovely.
When do you love your body the most? Are there moments during the day, week, or month where you notice, wow, this is good. I like this?
um, Generally, straight off the back of a workout, when I'm like when I feel strong and I feel like my body's sort of firing, and maybe that's endorphin. Really, I feel awesome then. And then I do have moments in the day when yeah, when I'd like to say I'm generally positive anyway, but when I don't know, when there's lots of energy around me and there's lots of things going on and I'm just moving with that energy, then I also am like, yeah, I just feel great. But I don't really go. To answer your question, I'm not probably thinking. I specifically think my body's fantastic. I'm just overall, I just feel great. Yeah.
Yeah. So in those moments, there's a lot going on around you, a lot of buzz, life is good, and you're not busy thinking, wow, but my body sucks. You're in this moment of I feel good.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And the other time, I just want to repeat this to know I'm getting it right, is, you have a good workout and you're feeling strong, you're feeling pumped, and you're loving on your body.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
great, great, great.
Yeah.
So, what do you want for your kids in terms of their relationship with their body, especially your daughter?
I want her to know that she is more than the vessel that she offers. That she's more than the number on a scale. She's more than the size of the clothes that she wears. Um, that her um, um, that her energies are put into areas that mean so much more than just oh, I don't know, I feel soft here or I feel this here or I don't know, my jeans are tight here, or yeah, I want, I don't want her to have that as her focus, I suppose, or have that all her energy into that area.
Can I ask how old you are?
I'm 34.
Okay, so let's say she was 34 right now, and you were
Yeah,
whatever age you would be. And if she
yeah,
came to you and she was sharing with you all these same things that you're sharing with me. I got
yeah,
these thoughts. I got this way that I relate with my body. I got this going on. I really don't like it. And meanwhile, she has a kid and she has a young daughter. What advice would you give her as her mother who loves her to pieces?
what advice would I give her? Same advice as my mother gives me at the moment, probably. Just you should try and find a way to set yourself free from all of this. And what else does my mum say? What else did I say to Shelley? I'd feel really sad. I'd feel sad if um, I hadn't captured any of that earlier and I only heard it at her being 34. But um, yeah, I don't know what I'd tell her if she was 34. I think what I think now, where my focus is as she is growing up, is wanting to more her around her strengths in so many other areas of life and not just focus on her appearance. Like, it's all well and good to be well presented, but her strengths around being smart or being great at this thing, or really resilient, or eager to try hard and eager to learn. Like, I want to sort of focus on all her other strengths, then and that's where I'm mindful of when I'm chatting to her, or communicating at 2.5.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Do you weigh yourself?
Only I don't own scales. I don't actually really believe. I believe in weighing yourself if you need to track something or you have a goal. But I weigh myself once a week with my trainer.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What happens if you're not where you want to be?
I generally know if I'm going to be where I'm going to be when I stand on the scale. I'm generally right. Um, yeah, I don't feel great, but then at the same time, I'm acutely aware if I've eaten to get the results that I want on the scale. So sort of goes hand in hand.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you had the perfect body, if you really got there and it was just so there was no mistaking that you had exactly what you want, what would the results be? And I don't mean in terms of what does it look like, what's the payoff, what's the big win, how is life going to be different, how are you going to be different? I'm not talking about the looks wise, but
Yeah.
you want this for a reason. So the reason is because I'm going to be or feel, or here's what's going to be different.
I think um, I think just overall I'd be more at peace with everything. So to answer your first question, what I deem as the perfect body, rationally or irrationally, and I have a very rational inner voice, thank God, because it keeps me on track a little bit. But I am not designed to have the body. If I could choose a body type of choice, I was not designed that way. So I sort of know that. So what I'm attracted to and what I see and what I go, wow, they are so lucky that they look like that. I'm acutely aware. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. Other people might see me the same way as them, but sort of like that. So it's about just finding inner peace with myself more than anything, because when I don't have that peace and I get down on myself, excuse me, on how I look, it affects my mood. It affects my, I can, I'm probably on a shorter threshold with my kids. I probably beat myself up around other things, or I'm distracted or preoccupied again in a in a place that's it's not even worthy of my energy. So I just feel I'd have just more inner peace with myself. There wouldn't be this continual conflict. That would be the biggest payoff.
So the biggest payoff is inner peace. Any other payoffs that come to mind?
It would be great to just feel good. Well, I don't want to, that sounds a bit, you're not going to always be happy every single day. Or feel good necessarily every single day. More than not.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you'd have a sense of inner peace and you would feel good. And that good, can you just say a few more words about what feeling good means? Happy, energized, are there more adjectives, more descriptives?
I feel more inclined to use the words congruent and maybe aligned. Then, I generally am happy. I generally have a good disposition. I generally have a lot of energy. It's just the mental dialogue that goes on is draining around how I see myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally get that. I totally get that dialogue can be draining. Your mom, how old is she?
She is 59.
How's her relationship with her body?
Excellent. So, in all my searching over the years, my mum is stunning, and she's the mother of 4 kids, all very close in age, and she had us very young. She is like a walking Barbie doll, literally, and the whole world told her that as we were growing up. So she was, I want to say was, my ideal of just what beauty is. And she, not to say she isn't any, I've gotten older, and I think in my maturity and my rationality can understand that, I wasn't designed to look like her, and that's okay. So, but yeah, and so she's always been very comfortable with her body. She's never had to worry. Like, when I say worry, we've talked about this a lot. And she says, I never had issues with myself that way.
So, do you have sisters?
I do. I have one sister and 2 brothers.
And the sister is older or younger?
18 months older.
How's her relationship with her body?
Not great. Not like mine. She I don't want to say cares less. Her energies are elsewhere. I think we both, if we were both asked the question, we'd both feel the need to want to look a certain way. How do I want to word this? To seek approval from my mum. I think we both know how my mum would like us to look, if that makes sense. She's just had her second child, and she was put on medication quite young, which actually ballooned her weight out. And then she came to Australia, saw a new doctor, and actually was incredible. And she was in her natural body form, so she was like praised and recognised for how little she was, and then she had to come off the medication to have her children. So now sort of back to where she was. So she's now started on this isogenics. I don't know if that's big in America. It's really huge in Australia now, unfortunately. But it's these shakes and all this sort of stuff to lose weight. Yeah. So she's gone down that path for the next 30 days in the hope to fast track what she's trying to do.
Got it. Okay, I want to kind of tie things in a little bow here for now, and just give you some thoughts and some feedback and some ideas and some impressions, hopefully to help you move things forward. So here's what I want to say to you. I'm really happy for you that you have kids, and I'm especially happy for you that you have a little girl. Because I really, really, really hope for you that she will be massive motivation for you to turn this thing around. In a strange way, If you told me that I come from a family where, my grandmother beat my mother, and then my mother beat me, and my great-grandmother beat my if you told me that that was being passed down from one lineage to the next, I would say, oh my God, that's terrible. You got to stop it. And what happens is you beating yourself up passes it on to your daughter. There's a damn good chance. And what I want to say, you said at the very beginning, I'm trying to figure out why I have this, why I just have this, you didn't use the term perfectionism, but like, I got this, like, I want my body to be better. And here I had the ideal body, and I still wasn't happy. And I'm trying to figure out why I have it. So let's just figure that out right now. I'm going to just tell you the answer. You never have to spend another moment on wondering why you have it. It actually has nothing to do with you. And this is a piece of psychology that most people don't understand. We think if we have a problem, that is my problem. The problem lives in me. The challenge lives in me. The concern lives in me. But it doesn't exclusively belong to me. My friend has cancer. So he has cancer. But guess what? So do hundreds of millions of other people have cancer. So cancer doesn't belong to him. It's a collective disease that finds a home in different people. So you are not the only gal on planet Earth who looks at her body and judges it, who has a great body and says, I don't like it, or any variation in there. So there are people with all kinds of levels of looks who either love their body or don't love their body. So you're not the first one. It's a collective disease that you caught. It's not your fault. You didn't ask for this. It's not a character deficiency. Just like if you caught the flu. Just like if you caught an illness that was caused by air pollution in your environment, it isn't your fault. And now that it's in me, I've got to deal with it. So I want you to take away any type of personal fault, any type of, oh God, this is my terrible issue. What does this say about me? That's going to waste your time. You will never get out of that hole. When you look at this as an illness, as a virus, as a parasite, the parasite is perfectionism. The parasite is transmitted through the media. It's transmitted through magazines and images and television and movies and models and the subtle things that people said to you growing up and the not so subtle things people say to you growing up. And we are getting bombarded from all different angles. So here's how you're supposed to look. And you were thinking these thoughts when you were 8 years old. And you know something? You might have been thinking them when you were 3 or 4. You just don't remember. So what I'm saying is you're not smart enough at that age to invent that. That was kind of vaccinated into you. Yeah. So our job, which we're doing together, which we're all doing, is we're having a collective immune response to this disease. Because it is a disease, because here you are, you created what you wanted in this fitness competition, and it still wasn't good enough because it's never good enough.
Yeah.
And when I asked you, so what's the payoff? If you really had what you wanted, what would be the payoff? You said inner peace. And you couldn't really think of anything else. And that was really the big payoff. When I pushed you a little bit, you said, oh, well, I'd feel good. But really the main thing for you was inner peace. And when you said that, what I thought to myself was, wow, there's a battle that's set up in your mind. So your mind is like a battlefield. All our minds are battlefields. Everybody has different battles going on in their minds. I love myself, I hate myself. I'm good enough, I'm not good enough. And because you're battling with perfectionism, we could never win. We could never be perfect because it doesn't exist. There is no perfect. There's a old saying from the Mahabharata. It's like the longest, oldest ancient poem on planet Earth. It comes from India. It says, then the strong, there's always one stronger. Then the most beautiful, there's always one more beautiful. No matter who it is that's the best, there's always one better. And if they're not there, they're coming around the corner. So what I'm saying is the perfect state doesn't exist. And it's like a bad virus when we catch it and we think it does exist. So our job is to turn up the heat on that virus, to raise the body temperature so it can't exist in us anymore. And you got to do it for yourself. You especially have to do it for your daughter and for the women of the world, because you can talk all day. We can talk all day about how men perpetuate this nonsense as it relates to women. But let me tell you something. Women perpetuate the nonsense as much as anybody else with each other. Yeah. So the women, and I'm just saying this as a man on the outside looking in on women's culture, women have to band together. Yeah. And you're 34, so in my languaging, in my understanding of the world, you're, probably in what I would call the late to mid princess stage. Princess, and it's an archetype, and princess, I'm saying that in the positive, meaning when we are young, we're either a prince or a princess. And at some point, that transitions. And as we get older, we can transition into queen or king. And in the princess stage, and again, princess is not a negative term, one of the ways a princess, a young female, gets her value and feels her worth is through praise that comes in from the outside world. We love you. Look how beautiful you are. You're so good. Oh, wow, thank you. I feel so good about myself now. So for the princess psyche, for the princess mind, it gets energy on outside input. Right around when you hit 30, we have to start turning the corner so that we self-reference more, so that we're not dependent on other people giving us our worth. Because you know something? You can poll 1,000 people and 500 of them think you're the greatest, 200 of them think you're okay, 100 can't stand you. We can't please everybody. Yeah. And yet we're going to be affected by that so much. So what I'm saying is there's a place where you have to take on not problem solving the issue of the negative chatter about body image. There's no problem to solve. It's more like, excuse the masculine terms, it's more like a battle to be addressed. It's more like an obstacle and a dis-ease that you're being asked to overcome, which means you have to watch yourself, which means you have to catch yourself, because every time you say a negative thought to yourself, you might as well be saying it out loud to your daughter, because we pick up on each other. Kids pick up on their parents. I had a client who god-awful body image, so many challenges over the years, eating disorders. And, I had asked her, how's your mom's relationship with her body? And she said, oh, it's really great. I'm like, interesting. Do me a favor, observe your mom more. A few weeks later, she comes back. She said, I never noticed, ever in my entire life, I'm 30-something, I never noticed that every fifth thing my mother says is a negative statement about her body. She didn't have it in her conscious awareness that her mother said, oh, look, I look so flabby. It didn't land in her conscious mind, but I promise you it was landing on every other level that was imperceptible to her. So you have to know that you are powerful. You are that powerful that the thoughts you think and the thoughts you say to yourself impact the ones you love most, especially your children. So that's why I'm harping on this, because I'm looking for the places that are going to really motivate you and inspire you, because you have to turn it around. You have to put yourself on the fast track. No more problem solving. You know what the problem is. You got a virus. And you have the same virus that a lot of the world has, and a lot of the women of the world have, and more the men of the world have. The virus is perfectionism. The virus is about the body and how it's supposed to look a certain way. And it will never resolve itself by changing the actual body. And you proved it. There's a place, and you know it. I asked you, so are there times when you love your body and it's okay? Now, your answer like really fascinated me. First thing you said, well, yeah, after a workout and I'm feeling all pumped, and you said maybe it's the endorphins. I really feel good about myself. So what I want to say is, I think you're right. There is a way that you and I and all of us can get chemically high. We can get chemically high on all sorts of actual chemicals and foods and substances. We can get high on exercise. We can get high on certain kinds of exercise, and there's nothing wrong with it. But when we use that as a benchmark for, I need to feel this way all the time, that's what happens to a drug addict. When somebody's on heroin, like, I want to feel this way all the time. Okay, that's going to be a problem. You might as well, yeah, go.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, with the working out, I think part of why I feel good is because I'm, what I believe anyway, is that I am pushed out of my comfort zone physically in that moment. So I suppose, or during that session, I suppose. So I get, I mean, maybe it's all one and the same, but I feel like I'm like physically challenged, mentally challenged, and then I feel strong, not just physically, but mentally, and I think that's actually positive energy to infiltrate in other areas of my life. So there's the endorphin piece, but I sort of come away sometimes going, wow, I just smashed that, and I didn't even know I could do that. Like kudos to me type of thing.
Yeah, so absolutely. So I'm not knocking that. I'm saying it's good. And all I'm doing is I'm raising my hand and saying, be careful, because there's also a piece in there. And you could continue doing the same kind of exercise, and it could be the best thing for you for all the reasons you just mentioned. But my guess is there's a part of you that's attached to that exercise because it's going to get you a certain look, which will then get you a certain feeling. It's gonna get you closer to perfection. And if that's a hidden driver, then you're going to be on the same road to nowhere. So you can do that very same exercise and have it be complete in and of itself. Meaning, great, thank you, I love this. I feel great, on to the next thing. If there's even a touch of, okay, now I'm going to weigh myself once a week, I'm with my trainer, I almost want to give you the challenge. Okay, so you like a challenge. I want to give you a challenge, and the challenge is to not weigh yourself for the next 3 months, even once.
Okay.
And
well, yeah.
so I want you to consider it. I really want you to consider it. You don't have to say yes. It has to feel right to you. Here's where that challenge comes from. You said to me, when I asked you what you want for your daughter in relationship to her body, the first sentence you said was, I want her to know that it's not about a number on the scale. So if it's not about a number on the scale, now weighing yourself once a week, that's not a lot. Honestly, between you and I know people who do it 15, 20 times a day. So you weighing yourself once a week, honestly, there's nothing wrong with it, and it's not a lot. And for you, it's a lot. For you personally, for where you're at and where you can be in a straight, like, it's all relative. So for where I would like to see you go, once a week is a lot. It would be fascinating for you to do the same workout, the same exercise. You could be with the same trainer and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Trainer, I want to just let go of this weighing thing. I want to see if I could just free myself of that. You even said to me, I know before I get on that scale whether I'm there or not. Yep. That's what I'm interested for you. The number, because as soon as you look at that scale, that number is going to tell you, hey, Stephanie, here's how you should feel. If the number is where you want it to be, then you are allowed to now feel good. If the number isn't where you want it to be, you better feel bad. So you're gonna let that number tell you, I feel good, I feel bad, or I feel like garbage, or I feel really great. And it's a little machine. And not only that, I promise you, if you take that scale and move it to 7 different places in the building, you will get 7 different readings.
Yeah.
Okay? Because these machines are not exact. And it's all about atmospheric pressure, temperature, where the moon and the sun and the stars are, quite frankly. So the machines are not exact, and we're letting that determine how we feel. But what I'm saying is, if you really want that for your daughter, the challenge here is let it go. That would be a beautiful gift. Your freedom is a beautiful gift. The second thing you said to me you said, I want inner peace. Like, that's what's going to happen when I have the ideal body. I want inner peace. I want to remind you that when we set up this conflict, you're setting up a conflict. I need to look perfect. Okay, so when I get to perfection, I will then be peaceful. But until then, I'm at war with myself. And I'm not at inner peace. So it's kind of like me saying to you, every day I'm banging my head against the wall. Literally, I take my head and I hit it against the wall. But I really want to stop. And then you say to me, well, so if you stop, then like, what's the benefit of stopping? And then I say, well, my head will feel so much better. Okay. Well, how about we just stop banging my head against the wall? There's a place where we're setting ourselves up. You set yourself up for inner turmoil by reaching for an impossible goal. So you won't have peace. It is definitionally impossible for your brain and your mind to have peace because you've set up a war. And you're saying, when I win the war, which means have the perfect body, then I'll be at peace. And I'm saying, just call a ceasefire.
Yeah.
You don't even have to have the war. That's where the action is. That's how strong and smart the virus is. How a virus survives in your body is it eats away at us. It takes our nutrition. It weakens your body. A virus prefers not to kill you. It just wants to weaken you, because the virus could stay in your body for 60 years. It weakens you enough so it can have its way with you. But if you die, the virus kind of goes with you, unless it jumps to someone else. So right now, the virus is kind of weakening you. And the idea is we strengthen ourselves such that the virus can't live in us. The thought called, you need to be perfect, it doesn't have room anymore. So let me suggest some homework for you. And I'm going to send this to you, so just so you can have it. And you don't have to worry about taking notes right now. So the homework is, I want you to start to notice every time you say a negative thought about yourself and your body and your looks. And in that moment, I would love for you to say, does this serve my children? Is this how I want my girl to speak to herself? Is this how I want my boy to speak to himself? Ask yourself that question. And if you care about your children, I know it's hard. So what I'm asking you to do is extremely hard. If this was easy, you would have done it a long time ago, and you and I wouldn't be in this conversation. So there is nothing about you that is not strong. There is nothing about you that's not courageous. I know you've been working hard on this one. And I've been trying to recontext this for you. So for viewers listening right now, if anyone out there is challenged with, I don't love my body, and how come I can't defeat this? The answer is because you can. It's stronger than you. It's stronger than any one person. However, this is us working together, mounting an immune response, sharing with each other. I'm sharing with you my little medicines that I know these little viruses hate. It's the last thing it wants. The last thing it wants is for you to counter self-hate. I don't love my body. This sucks. This is no good. I need to change this. You're countering that with love. That's the only thing that will vanquish away hate, is love. And it's hard to love myself sometimes, quite frankly. In this case, it's going to be easier for you to love your children in that moment, right? It's you're not going to tell your daughter. Imagine if your daughter woke up tomorrow and she stood up and you're about to dress her, and you said to her the same nonsense that you say to yourself sometimes. That would be horrible.
Yeah, it
Okay?
wouldn't even
You wouldn't do it.
cross my mind to say it. Yeah.
It would be terrible. You would not do that. But every time you say it silently to yourself, she hears it on an unconscious level because she's your offspring. She has half your DNA. These things are communicated in the silent and subtle universe. And it's true. We pick up on the nuances, on the body language. We pick up on nonverbal cues, and we actually pick up on thoughts and feelings. We are psychic. We pick up on everything, especially kids. They're sponges. And I want to say something else about that. Kids are extremely brilliant observers, but they're poor interpreters. So she's going to see you, and she's going to brilliantly observe, wow, my mommy's so beautiful, but she hates her body. She doesn't really like her body. She's going to hear that. And every girl wants to be like her mother in some way, shape, or form. They want their mother to love them. And if you're not loving yourself, remember, kids are brilliant observers. They're poor interpreters. If you don't love you for your body, she's going to look at her body, and then she's going to make up that you might not love her for her body. Because if you do it to you, of course you're going to do it to her. That's where a child's unconscious mind will go. You even mentioned about your own mother, like, I'm trying to live up to her expectations.
She's a perfectionist. When I heard you chat, I'm like, oh, she strives for perfectionism in every other area of her life. So there's a lot that you said that just resonated that I started reflecting on about her.
Yeah, and so you've picked that up, and a part of your perfectionism is wanting your mother to love you. Every child wants his or her parents to love them. Every girl wants her mother to love her. We have a special and particular relationship with our same-sex parent.
Yeah.
We just do. We have a special and particular relationship with our opposite-sex parents. So with your mother, you want your mother to love you for who you are. But if she has conditions on herself or on you, then it will be very hard to love oneself.
Yeah.
So part of this is also kind of looking at your own relationship with your own mother and liberating yourself. You don't have to be perfect like your mother. You just have to be you. And to really start to own you.
Can I just ask a question? I don't
Please.
know if some of the listeners might feel this way. One of the things that I've told myself over this long period of time, so when you talk about a ceasefire, there's a part of me that's, and you gave some awesome, actually, when I say reasons, you put a lot more purpose around the importance of having that ceasefire, which you've obviously discussed in the children, which is huge for me because I love that I've got that. I put that attention there, so it's opened up a whole new thing for me. But there's a part of me that I think's always felt that if I let go, I'll be complacent. I'll go into this place of complacency around how I do look after myself, and then I will just gain heaps of weight.
Right,
Get
right.
overweight.
So thank you for saying that. That's very honest. And this is a universal fear that the virus of body perfectionism creates in us. So it's a viral thought. It's similar to, oh my God, if I eat that food and allow myself to experience pleasure, I'll never stop eating it and I'll gain 100 pounds. Oh my God, if I let myself feel pleasure or intimate pleasure or sexual pleasure, then I'm never going to want to stop. And I'm gonna just, and my life is going to fall apart. Or so the belief is, if I don't maintain this high level of stress and work and energy and intensity, it's all going to go to hell. And I want to suggest that, so a lot of people have this one, and I want to say there's one remedy for this. And I really mean this. It's the best remedy. There might be other remedies, but this is the king. This is the queen of all remedies for that fear, and it's called trust. Plain and simple. Until a human, and in this case for you, a woman, until a woman learns how to trust her body and her life, she won't. And if you can't, trusting your body is equal to trusting life with a capital L. It's equal to trusting in the wisdom of the universe. It's all the same thing. The body, you wake up in the morning, you don't have to tell your body to breathe. You don't have to tell your body to absorb all the nutrition and take what it needs and excrete what it doesn't. You don't have to orchestrate your blood flow. You don't get a cut on your finger. There are thousands and thousands of chemical reactions that happen every millisecond when you cut your finger. You don't have to worry about that. You trust your body. There's certain ways that you just automatically trust your body, and there's ways that we don't. So this is the second homework assignment. I would love for you to keep a trust journal. And at night, before you go to bed, just take 5 minutes. And in your trust journal, I would love for you to write down, here's the places where I trust. Here's the places where I was trusting today, and just kind of reflect on the day. Here's the places where I didn't trust. Places where you didn't trust. It could be with people. It could have been with your kids. It could have been with decisions you made. It doesn't matter. But I just want you to notice your relationship with this thing called trust. Because there's a wisdom to life that's greater than us. There's the wisdom of life that created us, that brought us here, that animates us, that runs the whole show. Even if you're an atheist, man, is there a wisdom to biology and evolution and the intelligence of the body. There's a wisdom that makes this whole show work. And I'm asserting it goes beyond biology. And it's invisible, and it's a brilliant intelligence. We have to learn to tap into that. Otherwise, we're going to be focused on this one little body, and oh my God, my body's not doing this, it's not doing that, it's not perfect, it's not healthy, it's not this, it's not that. At some point, we're going to die anyway. And you're not going to be worried about this stuff. Yeah. So it's you learning to simply trust that if I take my foot off the gas, all that means is that you're going to go a little slower, and you could observe the flowers and the trees more. And you can take a deep breath and be with your kids and not be so anxious and not be caught in your head. That's what's going to happen when you slow down a bit. When we exercise from a place of stress, when we live from a place of stress, and everybody has stress, so it's not a bad thing, but when we're producing excess stress chemistry, we're producing excess insulin, excess cortisol, those two hormones in particular, oddly enough, will tend to signal the body to store weight, store fat, not build muscle, which is the opposite of what you and most other people want. So we are constantly, with our minds, creating this biological, biochemical soup. And are we creating the kind of biochemical soup that enhances the metabolism of the body or detracts from it? When we are in self-loathing, self-hate, self-rejection, or push, or force, or fear that I'm going to gain weight if I don't exercise hard for an hour and a half every day, you're creating stress chemistry, you're creating higher levels of cortisol, higher levels of insulin because it'll track cortisol. And again, day in, day out, when that subtle chemistry is elevated, it signals the body to hang on to weight. We actually need to relax more into life because 70% of your calories at least are burned when you're just sitting there doing nothing. Because most of the day you're not exercising like a maniac. 70% of what you're burning is burned through basal metabolic rate, just kind of being, lying in bed sleeping, sitting here talking to me. We're a calorie burning factory right now. But if I'm in constant anxiety, tension, and stress, then I'm telling the universe and I'm telling my brain and I'm telling my chemistry a lion's chasing me, and it's mounting a stress response, which is good for 2 or 3 minutes. It's not good for day in, day out. So we, all of us, we have to elevate our consciousness. We have to elevate the conversation that happens in our inner world, so it's not just the thoughts you think, even though that's a big part of it, but it's also how you are imagining the universe, how you imagine the big picture and how you fit into it, which gets back to this trust piece. Are you willing to live in a world where you trust in the outcome? That if I live more naturally with myself, if I don't come from a place of stress and force and shove around exercise and around my body, can I trust that I'm going to be okay? So that, I think, is a worthy experiment. So a trust journal, to begin to notice the places where you trust and the places where you don't, and the places where you might want to add more trust into the equation. Make sense?
Sounds good. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
How are you feeling right now? How are you doing?
Good. My brain is stimulated
Yeah.
with lots of thoughts. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just put a lot in your direction. But that's what this was about. So these are things I would have said to you over the course of many, many, many months. So if you're feeling a little overwhelmed, you should be, because I'm giving you what I consider like the punchlines. Like kind of getting right in there and drilling down to here's the goal, here's the target that you want to hit to get where you want to go. Let's get all the other nonsense out of the way and get right to the heart of the matter, because the truth is life is short.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen. And you owe it to yourself, your husband, your kids, to give them the best of you, like ASAP. Like we all owe it to our family, our friends, our loved ones. We owe it to the world. So you've been a really good sport there, Stephanie.
Thank you. No, I'm receptive. I mean,
I know you are.
I genuinely and that's why I was so excited that I was able to be part of this. I suppose I genuinely want the knowledge. I suppose I know I've got to now do something with it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a reminder, just some of the key highlights that we touched on.
Thank
The
you.
2 homework assignments, which is catching yourself every time you go into negative self-talk and saying, is this how I would want my kids to talk to themselves? Is this how I would want to talk to my kids? And use that as a pattern interrupt.
Yeah.
Use that as a way to create a, whoa, no, as a way to stop, because otherwise our habits. So a habit is a negative habit is automatic, it's unconscious, it repeats itself. These things you tell yourself are literally a tape, it's a loop, and it constantly plays itself. You don't even have to think to do it. It automatically runs us. It runs you. So the idea is to pattern interrupt it with consciousness. The way you change an unconscious automatic behavior, in this case, unconscious negative thoughts that run themselves and constantly repeat themselves, unconscious thoughts, automatic and repetitive, we introduce consciousness. Is this how I want to talk to my children? That's a conscious question. And it introduces consciousness into the system, which starts to raise us up and starts to evolve the mind, starts to evolve our soul, it evolves us. In probably the best way possible. So thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you. I'm grateful. Thank you.
Yeah. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Again, what I want to say is, for those of you who are practitioners, feel free, go over this again and really listen and think how you would use some of the skills that you saw. And notice for everyone listening in, how we're using a positive psychology model. I didn't say to Stephanie, nor do I want to say to anyone else, oh, you're such a jerk. How could you do that? What's your problem? What's your issue? Let's go in and figure out what's wrong with you and where your weakness is. No, this is all about self-evolution. So we're looking at your challenge as a vehicle for growth. So this is not that there's something wrong with you. This is something that lives in us, that lives in the world, that we are taking in and we're trying to evolve. And by evolving ourselves, we become stronger. Just like when you exercise, you become stronger. You feel good about yourself. So this is us exercising. So we're using a positive psychology model to say, we're going to take any health challenge, any eating challenge, any weight challenge, any body image challenge, and we're going to look and see what is the positive in it. How is it asking me to grow? Because when we come from that place, I want to say over time, success is assured. So once again, great job, Stephanie. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Yeah, and lots more to come, my friends. Take care.
Thank you.
I hope this was helpful. Thanks for listening to the Psychology of Eating podcast. To learn more about the breakthrough body of work we teach here at the Institute for the Psychology of Eating, please sign up for our free video series at ipe.tips. That's I for Institute, P for Psychology, E for Eating.tips, TIPS. You'll learn about the cutting-edge principles of dynamic eating psychology and mind-body nutrition that have helped millions of people forever transform their relationship with food, body, and health.